Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And we're going to have so much fun talking with my guest today, and she typically works with female entrepreneurs. But gentlemen, there will be good advice in here for you too. And I bet you know somebody that you need to share this information with, whether it's a spouse, a daughter, a partner, a cohort, any of those things. So pay attention. Please join me in welcoming Eleanor Beaton to our program today. Welcome, Eleanor. How are you doing today?
I am on fire. I'm so excited to be here with you. It's a privilege to be with a fellow podcaster.
I love it. I love it. And yes, you do have a podcast, and we will talk about that in a little bit because it is a fantastic podcast, one that I think everybody needs to listen to. So, I think we will definitely talk about that. So let me tell people a little bit about you, and then we will dive into this. So Eleanor Beaton is the founder of SafiMedia, an education and coaching company for women entrepreneurs. Through SafiMedia and her podcast, Power, Presence, Position, Eleanor and her team are committed to advancing global gender equality through women's entrepreneurship. They're on a mission to double the number of women entrepreneurs who scale past $1 million in revenue by 2030. Eleanor's work has been published or quoted in publications including The Globe and Mail, The Atlantic, CBC, Chatelaine, and more. So again, Eleanor, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Honored to be here.
Great. Well, I always ask my guests how they got to where they are today and how you discovered that this is your passion in life.
I think that where I am today is really a continuation of a fire that has been burning in me from a very young age. I really am my mother and father's daughter. Mm-hmm. So I grew up, I'm an immigrant to Canada. Okay. My mom is a Black woman from the Fiji Islands. My father was from Wales. He was Welsh. Mm-hmm. He was a professor. Mm-hmm. So we immigrated to Canada when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. And here's the deal. My mom was, when she and my dad first got together, she was the main breadwinner. She made more money than he did. Mm-hmm. She was a teacher. She had it all going on. Mm-hmm. They get married. They immigrate to a totally new culture. Mm-hmm. And for her as an immigrant, she's looking around. Nobody looks like her. She's like, I don't know that I feel comfortable yet having a babysitter. This is a completely different culture. So she became a stay-at-home mom. Okay. And she was, my parents had a great relationships in many ways, but she was financially disempowered. And so I can remember her wanting to invest, wanting to do more investment in mutual funds and stocks. And my dad, who was a conservative economist, was like, no, I don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. So I remember being 14 years old. She's driving me to basketball and she says, Eleanor, money is power. Mm-hmm. Women need to make their own money. So this is like this fire burning. Mm-hmm. At the same time, my dad, who is a professor, he turned down a big multi-six-figure corporate job to become a professor. Mm. He was very big on balance. Okay. He never worked past 4 p.m. He never worked on weekends. Mm-hmm. His assignments and exams were always the first that were marked. Mm-hmm. He believed that the key to success in business and in life was to be really focused and disciplined and have a ton of open time. Mm. And so I would say the quest to have open time and the desire for women's economic empowerment has really driven where I am today. Through the work that I do with women founders, it's all about building jewel businesses. So these are companies that scale 30% or more top line growth year over year until such time as the founder wants to accelerate or decelerate growth, 30% profitability so that you can build your financial fortress, and 30% open time for the founder. When I think about this unique work that we do, that is anchored in my childhood.
I love that. And I love the concept of open time. And I always kind of laugh when people say there's a work-life balance because, that's on a teeter-totter. I mean, that's 50-50, right? To get that balance. And that never, ever happens. But to deliberately say, I am not going to be a workaholic is very difficult for women business owners and business owners in general, because, we're like, email came in at 10:30 at night. I better check it. Oh, maybe I should do this thing on Sunday, and all of those things. So talk a little bit more about that.
Okay. Yeah. This is one of my favorite topics. And it's so interesting. Like a big part of the work that I do with women founders is really around studying them, and doing research. And one of the things that I've seen is just how so many women, that I talk to are obsessed with this idea of taking sabbaticals from their business. Like I literally have talked to a lot of women who want to take 3 months, 4 months. And on the one hand, I get it. Like I saw Brene Brown today. Yesterday she posted on social that she's taking a 3-month sabbatical from social media, from podcasts. She's Brene Brown.
Right.
Okay?
She can do that.
She can do that. Yeah.
and her business continues. I mean, that's the important thing to note.
Right. Like very established company who can hire the best of the best, So my question has always been, what is it about the business that makes you feel like you need a 3-month sabbatical? Because to me, open time, people think it's about not having accountability, about having unlimited amounts of time to go around and do whatever they want. I actually think freedom comes from structure and discipline.
Okay.
And that when we, like my dad's example, like really putting in the work, being very, very focused when he was working, and then modeling what it looks like to be truly free and open. There's a few dynamics here. One is this concept of workaholism. And I don't know about you, Deb, but I love my business. It is fun.
Right.
I enjoy doing it. If
So,
I want to work,
checking email at 10:30 at night.
If I want to do it, I'm going to do it. Exactly. I'm not going to feel guilty. Like that's okay. And also, I'll give you a very specific example. On Friday morning from 10 to 12, you know where I'll be?
Let's see. On the beach, with your kids?
On my back, getting my fake eyelashes filled.
I love it. I love it.
Like that's, I get to do that. And I also get to, work at 10 o'clock at night if I want to. I think balance is really about, are you nourished energetically?
Okay.
Do you have time to think and dream? Are you always doing, or are there places in your calendar where you can just be? And they don't have to look like the classic industrial era, 9 to 5. Like that work construct was invented during the industrial era to maximize
when your
labor
machines
efficiency.
were turned on, then your machines were turned off.
That's right.
Or the shift changed.
Or the shift changed. And we keep, it's hard to kind of overestimate how impactful that model of work has been, but it's been relatively recent in terms of human history, to work in that way. We are much more working here and then resting and then here and then resting and finally shutting it down. So
typically we worked based on the sun.
Yes.
You were outside doing when there was sunlight, which meant you did a lot more in the summer. And, and then in the winter, you scaled things back because it was dark.
Yes. And you felt like hibernating, Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest things that people saw because of the pandemic was the shift in that, when all of a sudden they were home. And still, and having to figure things out. And I loved it when, so many people said, oh my gosh, this is so hard to have to figure out what to do with the kids and the this and the that. And I'm thinking, you clearly have never been a mother. Yeah. And I say that never having been a mother, but I have lots of friends who are. And so, women have been juggling their schedules forever. Mothers are not mothers. I mean, because there's so many things that women do, but I think it really was a dash of cold water in the face of businesses and employees when they had all of a sudden these schedules where the big thing was, of course, not commuting. I mean, so many
Yeah.
people have saved so many hours by not doing that. But then, the whole work from home, how are you going to arrange everything? And I think many people really did discover, and businesses discovered, you know what? If they get the work done, we
Mhm.
don't care when they do it. Now,
Yeah.
clearly, there were meetings that you have to attend and all of those things. But if somebody said, yeah, I work better at 10 p.m., if they got the work done, the boss went, okay.
Yeah. Well, and I think what so many organizations saw was actually spikes in productivity,
Right.
major increases in
Mhm.
productivity because people they didn't yet have that boundary
Mhm.
that you develop when you work at home. I mean,
Right.
I've worked at home since 2003.
Mhm.
And so, I have developed boundaries that prevent me from overworking
Mhm.
because in those early years of my first business,
Mhm.
I overworked. Like I just
Mhm.
worked all the time.
Right.
There wasn't a go to
Mhm.
work. There was no clear
Mhm.
delineation.
Mhm.
But I definitely think the pandemic saw this, big increases in productivity that companies are now figuring out how do we deal with this now that we're back to now that we're back
Whatever we're
to,
back to.
yeah, whatever we're back to,
Mhm.
some form of hybrid
Mhm.
situation.
Mhm.
But here's the thing. When I think about balance for entrepreneurs, and whether you're a man, a woman, or whoever you are, um, for most high performers, in the beginnings of our career, we think about balance in terms of our ability to manage our time.
Mhm.
And most of the founders that I work with, by the time you've got an established business, you're making some sales, like it takes an extraordinary person to do that, to create
Mhm.
something out of nothing. There's a
Mhm.
reason that
Right.
90% of businesses fail.
Mhm.
It's because it's not easy. So if you're in the
Mhm.
10%, congratulations.
Mhm.
And I'm going to offer to those people that time management is not your issue.
Mhm.
So if you're working in your business and feeling burnt out,
Mhm.
and you start taking more and more time management courses, and you
Mhm.
start getting into all
And
of these
feeling guiltier and
elaborate,
guiltier, right?
feeling guiltier and
Mhm.
guiltier, what I would say is it's not you, it's potentially the system in which you're operating in your business. And here's what I mean. You know, um, in my very first business, I was a consultant.
Mhm.
I sold my time. I was
Mhm.
one of the top, paid consultants in
Mhm.
my field in the
Mhm.
country at that
Wow.
time.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I still had to work
Mhm.
for my supper
Mhm.
week after week, month
Mhm.
after month. If I stopped doing the consulting work, I stopped getting paid.
Right. Mhm.
And so, right. And I still then had to do the work, find new
Mhm.
clients, close those clients.
Mhm.
So it was exhausting and I was
Right.
stuck in a delivery trap.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
tried to do everything I could to be more efficient with my time. But there were limits to that. And that's when I realized, you know what? It's not about me managing my time anymore. Like I know how to manage my time. I'm not a big time procrastinator. If I'm procrastinating, it's probably because I need to take a break.
Mhm.
What I realized is my business was not set up to offer me the freedom to grow.
Mhm.
And so that's when I really started taking a look at how can I create assets in my business that work for me. I don't believe that, I don't believe in this myth of making money in your sleep necessarily. But what I meant was as a consultant, I had to do all the work. Today, I codify the work that I do. So if I do it with 100 people and it works, that to me says, okay, it's time to codify this.
Mhm.
And it could be a program, it could be a course for sure, but very often it's professional development for my own staff. And really becoming, I remember talking to an accountant. I was like, the entrepreneurs that you work with who sell their companies for the most money, what do they have in common? And he's like, they see themselves as professional development organizations in the business of developing systems and processes and being impeccable trainers of their staff so that they can do what the founder once did.
Right.
So once you start to think, I call this asset thinking. It's what I teach in my programs. Once you begin to practice asset thinking and scale your business that way, you escape the pressure of managing time constantly. And you begin to be a creator of assets, and those assets work for you, and you start to have a lot more freedom.
I love that. And I think it's it's as you said, it's that hamster wheel that we get on. And we just keep going and just keep going. And, no way can we take a 3-month sabbatical. We can't take a 3-day sabbatical, right? We end up working weekends, holidays, all of those things. Even if it's just, I got to check my email. I got to, all these various things. And we've talked about this on the program a lot. One of the biggest things that people have absolutely got to learn, especially when they're starting out, is the word delegate. Right?
Yes.
And it's, I'm not saying people have to hire, 20 full-time employees, but maybe you hire someone to do your accounting. And yes, I know that as, when you're just starting out, that's sometimes difficult. So there are, you can barter, you can do all sorts of things. But yeah, the founder of the company needs to be working on what they want to do, not
Yes.
doing the invoicing, the HR, the this, the that. And now they do have to be in sales. I always love it.
Oh,
because,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah, and it's funny because I want to talk about a concept that you have, but and it's funny, we all, "Oh, you have to do sales," and we all go, "Ew, sales," right? Ah, I'm sorry. If you own your business or are senior management, you are in sales. Now you might hire salespeople, and be able to do that, but you still should be promoting your business. No matter what it is, you need to be doing that. And, but yeah, other things you can delegate, and you
Yes.
can and should be doing that. Find the people who are the experts and have them do it.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And so there's two things there, this idea of delegating and the idea of being in sales. So I'm going to start with being in sales and just say, preach, hallelujah, say it again louder for the people in the back. I can't emphasize that enough, because honestly, when a founder says they don't want to be in sales, what that really, to me, the danger of that is that the message that you're sending is that your belief in what you do isn't big enough, isn't strong enough to, for you to feel called that you have to get this out, into the world or out in front of the right people or whatever. And so if it's not strong enough, my thing is, don't ditch sales. Ask yourself, why not? What would need to be true in order for me to make sure that I feel proud and I am willing to go all in and face rejection, face embarrassment, hear no's in order to, really bring my offer out in front of people. So I 100% agree with that.
Right. Yeah, if you don't want to promote your own business, you shouldn't be doing it.
Honestly, you shouldn't. And there's so much sort of fragility right now that, like, sometimes people don't want to hear that, but I'm like, no, it's the truth. Like, go do something else. So entrepreneurship right now is really celebrated. Well, I remember growing up, like when I started my first business, I didn't know
everybody went,
entrepreneurs. Yeah. They were like, why would you do that? Like,
no, you must. Yeah. Or isn't that a cute little hobby that Eleanor has?
It's a hobby, or you couldn't get a real job. Like, that's what it's like now. Entrepreneurship is cool, but I'm going to argue that proportionally, the proportions are not necessarily going to change. I just don't see evidence that the proportion of successful entrepreneurs changes. 90% are still going to be out of business because of what we're talking about right now.
Right. Yeah. And because it is very hard to be an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And it is something that, there's obviously outside forces, COVID aside, it's difficult. But it is difficult because you're thinking you at least need to know a little bit about all of those things. I mean, I need to know that my taxes were done correctly. I don't need to know how they were done, but I need to know that they were done correctly. And so, it's all of those things. But in many cases, it is, excuse me, I think the biggest reason entrepreneurs fail is they don't plan. And more importantly, and I think part of that planning is figuring out who the heck you're going to sell your product to. My favorites are when you ask somebody, and there's a commercial going on right now that just drives me nuts here in the States. I don't know if you have it in Canada, but when, it says, who is, everyone is our client. because they're selling skincare products. And I laugh about that because, yeah, everybody has skin, but not everybody's going to buy that product because of expense, because of whatever. And I go back to years ago when I was networking in Colorado, and we had to give our little 30-second spiel. And this wonderful woman sold skincare products, and she's, and who is your client? Everyone, right? Because everybody has skin. But then when we were asked to provide referrals, we couldn't do it. It was like, and so she started working on her niche and came up with, and it was a really small niche, which was really scary because she's thinking there's not a lot of money in it.
Yeah.
But her niche was 16-year-old boys who have acne. And every single one of us knew somebody to refer her to.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And
if
that's
you are
what
a mom
it's,
or a dad of that
Yeah.
16-year-old boy, you will pay whatever.
Yeah. And maybe you had a 17-year-old daughter. Okay, same product is going to work. Or you had a friend or whatever. But yeah, I mean, we immediately knew somebody who could use that product.
Yes.
And that's part of the thing about niching is it is so important. So talk to us a little bit more about that.
Okay, niching is fabulously important. And I love that example. So do you mind if I use that example?
You may,
I'll cite you. I'll cite you because
yeah.
Come on, like that's amazing.
And I think it's like Neutrogena who says our product is for everyone. Well, I'm sorry, Neutrogena is a little bit more expensive. I mean, clearly it's not on the high end. But, no, it is not for everyone.
Exactly. And I think it becomes this problem of entrepreneurs mistaking where they are and the resources that they have with mass market people. Like Neutrogena also has massive amounts of money to blast markets, with. So niching is really all about what do you stand for? Who are you for? What practical problem do you solve for what specific person?
Right.
And it's about making choice. And so I think as entrepreneurs, we have this, we're actually not wired to niche down. So
we don't want to leave money on the table.
You don't want to leave
missing
money
someone.
on the table. Right. Exactly. But what happens is that when we send a general message, it doesn't cut through the clutter. We can't specifically call out somebody to refer to them. And so our marketing loses its power.
Right.
But the other thing that I really see is what happens on the delivery side and the fulfillment side. So when you aren't niched in properly, one of the things that can happen is that, especially as a consultant or a service provider, you start bringing into your company a fairly broad subsection of the marketplace. Okay. So let's say you are a marketing consultant and you haven't niched down, you're just for everybody. And so you have a few big companies, you have a few law firms, you have a couple of fitness trainers, you have a local gym, you have a chiro studio, like whatever. So you have all of these people coming in. And for each one of these groups, the marketing strategy is going to look different.
Right.
Tactics are going to look different. Social channels are going to look different. Now you go and try and, number one, serve those clients. Now you go and try to find employees who can serve all of those different clients. Right. You're looking for a unicorn, i.e. you're looking for yourself, and entrepreneurs are not going to find themselves. No. So niching is not just, it doesn't just help you get the most out of your marketing dollars. It doesn't just help you sell more effectively. It helps you deliver in a more focused way. It actually helps you scale. So a lot of times when a service provider isn't niched in, they are drowning with complexity, and they are the only person, because of the unique talents that it takes to be an entrepreneur. They think everyone is like them. Right. They're not. Talk to any service provider. They're typically like the master service provider. They're trying to find others like them. You're not going to. You have to make decisions and give people focused areas that they can focus on and own and scale. But there's something else, which is that we just know that people's specialty, the other aspect of niching is that you can charge a lot more. Right. So who gets paid more? A cardiologist or a general practitioner? Right. Like we pay
for that expertise.
That's right. We really, really do. And so, there's so much about niching. I think when small businesses aren't niched in.
Mhm.
They're just simply leaving money on the table.
Right.
And I know it's scary.
Mhm.
And the other thing, of course, is that it's really hard to do yourself because you can't read the label from inside the bottle. So that's why, like in the programs that I run, that's our specialty. We don't work to help, like our specialty is helping companies scale from several 100,000 to over 1 million.
Mhm.
We don't start the work until we're confident that they have a really good, clear niche. So that's what we do first, always. Yeah.
Well, and a lot of times a brand new business does not have that.
No,
Because they
and that's
haven't been able to
okay. Yeah,
develop
they
it.
haven't.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Like I didn't have a niche when I first got
Right.
started, by the way. I love this. You're right. Like you have to start and see what works, you know? And so when people, like if they're just starting, I would say, don't worry about a niche, just go sell, like see who's coming, what do you like, but once you're consistently getting some sales and you know that you're ready to scale up, I couldn't agree with you more. That's when you know your stuff, Deb. This is why it's called, it's not called the Business Power Hour.
I know. Yeah. You know, it's learning from all my guests, right? You know, and I love that it's, as you know, when you're starting out, now granted, there are some, you have a very specific product maybe, and so it's only going to appeal, so you've niched just by your product.
Exactly.
But in many cases, you really are just trying to figure it out, and especially if you're in the consulting type of area, marketing is a great example of that. You're thinking, okay, I'm going to take any client that comes along, but wow, I really like working with dentists.
Yes.
I was at the dentist yesterday, so that's top of mind, right? And so you start thinking, okay, what can I do better for dentists? Oh, hey, I like learning this for dentists.
Yes.
So it just might naturally evolve into that. And then from there, you can kind of go out. You might work with orthodontists or, other types of medical providers. But, if somebody comes to you and said, hey, I'm a bank, you politely decline and say, here's someone else who can help you. And I always tell people that's the thing to do is if at all possible, send them to someone else. Just don't say, no, don't do that now.
Refer them. Yeah, totally. And, this is so interesting. I agree. I think that's, for those of you who are in startup, don't worry about niching yet. Like get a base. But then something interesting happened. So I was working with some clients yesterday in a program I run called Power Presence Position. And this is like that niching program. And so we're taking a look and we were really talking through their clients. And so of course you have to have clients in order to be able to do this.
Right.
Right. And what they found, so one had worked with 100 clients. So, and what she found was that the top five of her clients contributed 75% of the company's sales.
So close to that 80-20 rule that we hear about.
Totally. Yes. Right. Like, and that the other 95 clients produced 25%. Now then I asked.
And probably took a lot more of the work too.
Right? Exactly. I'm like, who produced the lion's share of the headaches? And whenever I say this, like, when we talk about like headache clients, I always want to be very respectful because I always appreciate for any business owner and, any of you out there, anybody who is coming and investing in your business, that's a valuable human, like that's a wonderful thing. Right. And so I always want to watch how I say that. But there are some who, for various reasons, are going to be a little bit more challenging to work with. They might not be as profitable. And there could be somebody who is much better positioned to, they could be the top 5% for somebody else, you know? So it's really all about, and I was like, what would happen if we released 75% or 95% of your client base?
And they went,
I know they went, oh, and then I'm like, just breathe. I'm here with you. Just breathe. What would happen? And so there was a lot of freaking out. And I was like, you don't have to do this. Let's just think about what would happen. Well, I actually wouldn't need half my staff. So I'd be making the same, so big profits, or she's like, but I don't want to let them go. I was like, you don't have to.
Right.
You don't have to if you don't want to. What else? What might they do? Well, actually, we could probably put in this referral campaign that we just haven't had time to do. Right. Because those 5,
they suck up
they
all
have
the
lots
time,
of friends.
right?
Exactly. Like they could. So you start to see these more simple ways of growing that, growing from what you already have. And I call this scaling with sufficiency. It's not always about reaching for what you don't have. It's about understanding and studying and valuing what you do have and looking at how can I leverage what I have to generate more. And it's very effective. It feels good. Like there's something about growing that way that I've always found just feels good. Like I remember, my parents raising me, to really value, like this was embedded into both family lineage, to value what you had, and to protect and take care of the things that you have. And that's the way that you grow more of it, and to be okay releasing what you don't value. But if you value it, protect it, take care of it, honor it. Yeah.
I love it. Now, when you work with clients, one of the things that you do is a pain audit.
Yes.
What the heck is that?
Oh my gosh, it's going to change your life. Okay. So I do pain audits on myself as well. As a business owner, maybe you've encountered this. You're just tough. You're gritty. Like you can take things. We can take things. Like how many times have you recorded you gotten up in the morning, maybe you had 3 interviews that day. You're not feeling that well. And you're just like, okay, I have 3 power hours today. You know what I mean? I don't really want to do it, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I can do it. I can do it.
I can do it. Like I'm going to get my green tea. I'm going to, I'm going to take some time. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to show up. So we're used to showing up, and there's a part of that is a requirement. There's a requirement that's a part of it. But the flip side of it is that we can become numb to things that we're tolerating, to problems. You're just so used to tolerating the mess. You never clean up your office. You're so used to tolerating, being uncomfortable, that what happens is that you don't address problems because you've become used to tolerating them. And so a lot of times you can create tremendous growth by taking the time to really audit where are the pain points? What am I tolerating? And so if you sat down, if any listener after this episode, you go and you sit down and you just gently ask yourself, what am I tolerating right now? So I'll do it. I'm tolerating that we have a housekeeper who comes once per week, and it's not enough. Like we're scaling our business. My husband is my business partner. We have 2 boys that are 11 and 15. We really want, we want to invest our time and we do in coaching them in sports and just being with them
and not having to pick up the towels and do the
not
dishes
having to pick up and do all of the cleaning. And we are in a position where we are privileged and have the ability to pay for help. But I've been tolerating not having that help. And
for whatever reasons, like you said, you get used to it.
You get used to it, and I'm also tolerating the fact that, I don't do any cooking. My husband does all of the cooking. He's the cook in the house and he loves it. But you know what? He gets tired of it too. And we're tolerating not having extra support in terms of food prep. So this is other thing that So then often one of the biggest impacts that you can do on your life and your energy is just to go and deal with that one thing. So you really check in, what's creating pain right now? What am I tolerating? And one by one, you start releasing and eliminating the things that you're tolerating, and it frees up your energy. And so now you have energy to pursue growth. The problem for so many entrepreneurs is they are trying to pursue growth from a deficit energy, from an energy deficit. And then they're wondering why it's so hard, and what I have learned.
And they think, I just want to go flip hamburgers for somebody.
I just want to go flip, or I have a time management issue. No, you do not. So this way, just to start, it's like, a blister, you're hiking and it just keeps rubbing and and you're kind of used to it. And then all of a sudden you have a blister and you're in pain and then you can't walk, and so that's what the pain audit does. It really helps you get over your grit, really check in with, what you've been tolerating and gently, one at a time, begin to eliminate those things to really free up energy that can be used first to be creative and then to go out and deploy, to getting the things that you really want.
And sometimes it can be a simple fix. And one of those fixes where you're like, God, I should have done this years ago.
Right.
I hate invoicing. I mean, it's necessary evil, obviously. But, there were times where I think, oh, crap, I totally forgot to invoice for last month. And I have some clients that are long-term clients. We invoice them every month. And bless their hearts, they'd send me notes and say, you didn't invoice us. And I'm like, oh, and, and it's easy. I mean, it's poke the button, away it goes, that type of thing. And when I discovered that QuickBooks, which is what I use, I can automate invoicing, I'm like, oh my God, and now if there's something that has changed, obviously I have to change it for that. But and aside from anything else, that took several hours away from me doing something that was painful.
Yeah.
And now the invoices just go. I get the emails, so that way I know that they
get paid.
Yeah, and I don't have my clients going, excuse me. I mean, bless them, because other people would have said, sorry, too bad. But yeah, I mean, just simple things like that, or, updating your website. Now, I love to update. I tinker. I like doing that. I like playing it, but it is not an efficient use of my time. So I have what I call the 15-minute rule. If it's going to take me longer than 15 minutes, it gets outsourced. And I've got great people that I outsource to depending on what the need is. And, that frees me up. And because I'm like, squirrel, I can go down those rabbit holes and just keep going down those rabbit holes. And, all of a sudden I've lost 4 hours of time that I really shouldn't have. So, it's just one of those things. Think about what you can have, somebody else do.
Well, and the other side of this that I think is fascinating is this idea that, the reason that it's so critical to do this and to start outsourcing this kind of thing is that entrepreneurs don't grow into pain and discomfort.
Right.
So you have to really watch. So for example, if you, as an entrepreneur, I always pay attention if, let's say I want to hire a contractor. And if they are slow to respond, that tells me that they don't have their business streamlined.
Right.
And that they don't actually want the sale because the sale would create more headaches for them.
Right.
You know what I mean? And why would you want more headaches? And so I think a big, responsibility as the leader of a growing entrepreneurial company is to look for those places, is to pay attention, like to the discomfort, to the pain, to the things that feel heavy, because those are all the things that addressing those, they can be simple things. Like you just said, it could be just a switch that you make. They're simple things often, and it frees up so much capacity for growth. It's really powerful.
Right. And one of those things is, we're getting rid of those clients that either aren't profitable, are the pains in the whats.
Yes.
And I tell people, I have a PETA tax, pain in the, right? Of course you don't put that on the invoice, but
exactly.
You charge them more because you know that they're going to be a pain.
You have to, yes.
Well, and when you're starting out, you do have some pain in the clients, but get rid of them as soon as you can, because for one thing, you're probably not giving them your best work. So maybe that's why they're a pain. It's the, hey, Deb, how come you haven't responded to us? Hey, Deb, how come,
Yes.
And it's, and so gently push them aside. Again, do a referral if you can, things like that. But yeah, if you're feeling pain, they're feeling the pain.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. And, and I kind of think about clean money only. And we have a clean money only policy, in our company. And again, it didn't start out like this, because you have to, there's some trial and error to really understand who are we going to be able to show up for all in, and what types of clients are we going to be able to serve at the highest level, and what types are best served elsewhere, but I think about that as clean money. So if I don't feel amazing, then I'm going to refer them somewhere else. If the offer that I'm offering doesn't feel amazing, like if there's parts of the offer that for our company are just really hard. And this doesn't mean that we don't sometimes do stuff we don't want to do. That's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
But clean money, like thinking about a clean money only policy is really powerful. Again, it's this energetic thing where over time, you just gradually, and it's like this theme that we've been talking about, you just gradually address the things that are weighing you down, the offers, the clients, the processes, the things in your home life. You just gradually, gently start to eliminate them. And your whole business starts getting reoriented into a place that's highly optimized. And that's the place that fuels growth. It fuels tremendous growth. So yeah, I love what you're saying there.
Well, and it does, because when we're happy and, and things like that, it feeds on itself, and when you make clients happy, they're more likely to refer you.
Totally.
And all of those various things. But yeah, I mean, I know that I have clients that, I did an okay job for, right?
Yes.
And you got the work done. You did it maybe on time, and all of those things. And I wonder, if somebody said, hey, what was it like to work with Deb? If they would have said, it's okay.
I know.
I mean, it's kind of like the thing, you go to the doctor and the doctor says, how are you? Fine. Right? You could be dying.
I love you so much for sure. Listen, because we've all been there. We've all had we've all had work experience where we're like, oh, sweet Lord.
Yeah.
I did my best, but I don't know. You know what I mean? Or maybe I didn't, it wasn't that awesome,
Well, and they're good people. I mean, every once in a while, you've got,
you're like,
but yeah, I mean, they're good people. And sometimes maybe it's just not a good personality fit either.
Totally,
I mean, there's all sorts of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, the second somebody would say, well, it was okay.
Yeah.
No.
I know. That's what is that called? Damning praise.
Yeah. I don't want to work with anybody that's just okay. I mean, they're the
I know. I don't want any damning praise. Only
they're the 3 stars out of 5.
Oh my gosh.
Right? And I want to be a 4-star and why am I not a 5? Right?
Exactly. Yeah, no, so true. So true. Yeah.
And you look at it, reviews. Are you going to pick somebody who has lots of 3s? It depends on what it is. I mean,
exactly.
Okay, it's the only restaurant in town. I guess I'll go. But
so I work with clients a lot because once you've created a niche, then it's really about ensuring that you're positioned properly inside that niche. And a great way to do that, like how do you position yourself? It's really by first, who do you serve? And then what is the promise of the work that you do?
Right.
What are people actually buying and actually paying you for? And so we were working through that. And we go through an exercise and it's really about taking a look at the outcomes that have been the result. So that they're not these false, ridiculous claims rooted in nothing, that these are promises based in actual results that have been consistently and predictably uncovered over time. And most of the clients that we work with, when they go through this exercise, they are blown away by their own work. Like when you really actually look at it objectively, what happened. Anyway. So we arrived at this place, and what my client uncovered is that in case study after case study after case study, as a result of the work that she and her employees did in their company, they were helping senior leaders get promotions into senior roles 5 times as fast.
Wow.
And their salary increases were 5 times greater than the average.
That's impressive.
It's impressive. So not 5 times the salary, 5 times the salary increase. So rather than a $10,000 annual increase, it would be a $50,000, just to be very clear. She wanted to be very,
Yeah.
So she's talking about this. And so I was like, that is a powerful promise. And it's consistent. You have case study after case study. And so then she says, which is what so many entrepreneurs, well, what happens if somebody comes in and I can't do it? I was like, you can't work with someone that you couldn't do that for. That's what that is. That's what that's about. Like And the change. And I was like, all of a sudden it becomes, you understand very much who your client is. You're only going to work with people when you make a powerful promise and a powerful claim that's rooted in provable fact and rooted in case study after case study, and you own that claim. Now you need to only work with clients who can own that claim. And I'm telling you, I was like, in order to be able to have this outcome, what would your client need to have in place? And she knew they would need to be this, they would need to be this, they'd need to have this type of attitude. They would need to have this type of work ethic. And I was like, then you need to be able to, in your sales process, qualify. And then you start to only work with clients like that. This is the power, right, of really clear niching and effective positioning. It becomes this incredible protection for you and your business. It allows you to scale by working with only the best, or only the people in your, who are going to help you accomplish. And it allows you to market hard, all in, claim the power of your work without the fear that you're being disingenuous. Like, we know that, for me, I know that if a client hasn't already proven they can sell $100,000 a year of their offerings, and they're not going to be, I can't help them scale to $1 million. Like, I just can't, like, it's not the time. Come back when you've actually, when you know how to sell, it helps you weed away. And it's not just for you, it's for the buyers. They are able to say, okay, I love them, but you know what? They're not for me yet.
Right. But when I get there, that's who I'm going to call.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
Well, and we think, well, we're leaving money on the table, but we're gaining money with that, because again, your staff or you are focused on only providing, to those people. But just think marketing. I mean, you're not spreading your message, however you're doing it, to the world. Yeah. You're right where they need to be. And now fortunately this is years ago, and I don't think they do this anymore. When people bought fans and followers on Twitter, Facebook, all the various social media accounts, and you could, for not a big sum of money, buy 5,000 new followers. And, I had clients who told me to do that. Now, those were usually in third world countries. They were, now they wouldn't even be real people. They would just be bots. But, I refused every single time. And I had one client that told me he was going to fire me. And I'm like, well, fine. Clearly this is not going to work. But, their important metric was the number of followers they had. And I tried to explain, you can have 10,000 followers, but if 9,900 of those are not going to buy from you, why are you wasting your time and your money and your efforts even talking to them? Exactly. And their response would be, well, but they might. And, and granted, That's true. But, exactly. We want to sell to the they wills, not the they mights, right?
Oh, yes. Yes, exactly. Like, and I do really think that it's interesting the degree to which social platforms, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, they've really allowed for this tremendous visibility, this tremendous exchange of, ideas. They're incredible marketing tools, but people mistake marketing. I think there can sometimes be an overemphasis on marketing and an underemphasis on actual selling.
Right.
And it's been so interesting. I have definitely encountered many people who have huge social platforms who are broke influencers. They really understand how to get attention, but they haven't cultivated that skill of translating attention into money. And they've confused fans with buyers, to your point, and they're very different. So for instance, in my market, I know I'm a creeper. So what I mean by that is, you're never going to see me commenting on anything.
I'm a stalker too.
Right? Like I watch, and then I'm like, okay, that's useful. Maybe I should that lawyer has an interesting approach, or that person would be,
Mm-hmm.
I won't be on their list.
Mm-hmm.
There will be no
Right.
engagements.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden I'm going to,
Mm-hmm.
I'm reaching out to
Right.
work with them. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think people, like, you need to think about, like, sometimes, and that might be true for some, might not be true for all segments. Right. But I've certainly seen that with some of our people. They're not commenting because they don't have time.
Right.
Because they're overworked consultants.
It doesn't mean they're not paying attention. And that's what I tell people,
Yes.
and it's frustrating. I mean, you write this great post on LinkedIn and crickets.
Yes.
That doesn't mean people didn't see it. I mean,
It's
but it's very frustrating to
Yep.
think I spent all that time, and it's like, and there could be a variety of reasons why it just didn't hit at that moment. If it's great content, post it again later.
Yes.
There's no rule that says you can't do that. But yeah, that's hard, especially when you are on your own. Or maybe you're the business of 10,000. You're like, hello? Is there anybody out there? Right.
Exactly. No, it's interesting. It's so important, critical thinking,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like the ability to sit back and think critically.
Mm-hmm.
It's such an important skill, especially, when we're living in an age of so much stimulus,
Mm-hmm.
so much input, the ability to sort through and think critically and stay focused on the big picture and ask ourselves, is this really an effective action right now? Or is it a waste of my time? These things are key.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm the biggest squirrel, and actually I've decided I'm going to call it butterfly, right? That
Yeah.
sounds better.
Yes,
Butterfly.
it does. It does.
But, and so I have to watch that,
Mhm.
and people, they know that I do social media for a living.
Yes.
And so they'll say, well, what should we do on TikTok? And I say, I don't know.
Yeah.
And well, what should we do on IG? Somebody called it IG to me one day, and it took me a while to figure out they meant
Bless them.
Instagram. And I'm thinking, okay, yeah, they shouldn't be there because they don't even know what it's called. But I don't use those platforms. I use Facebook, I use LinkedIn, and a very limited Twitter, just because that's a quick, easy way to get messaging out there. But and part of that is because I do go, oh, butterfly, cat video. I mean, all those things. And so, but also I know that for the people that I'm trying to reach, that's where they are. They're not on TikTok. They're not, I about said Tic Tac. They're not on TikTok. They're not on
I say TikTok.
Instagram. I know. They're not on those platforms. And so I'm not going to spend my time there. And now if I have a client who their demographics match those, then I'm going to have to learn to use those platforms.
Yep.
But or more importantly, okay, we're going to circle back on this, right? I'm going to tell them I don't use those platforms. Here's someone who can.
Right?
I learned. Oh my gosh, I learned.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, agreed. And I think that there's something powerful about people who are okay with staying in their lane. There's this great story about in 1918, this German physicist named Max Planck won the Nobel Prize for physics. He was the guy who essentially originated quantum theory. And so, because he's now a thought leader, he started touring Germany in town to town to town, giving the same public lecture at town after town after town. And he had this chauffeur, and the chauffeur drove him everywhere. And the chauffeur was an excellent mimic. And one day he says to Max Planck, they're going to Berlin, and he says, Max, you must be bored to tears of doing this same lecture over and over again. Why don't I dress up like you? You dress up like the chauffeur. I'll give the lecture and you sit in the front row. And so Max thinks this is a great idea. So the driver goes up and delivers Max Planck's lecture.
Oh my gosh.
Verbatim, right? And at the end, he gets a standing ovation. And at the end, somebody stands up and asks a question. And the chauffeur doesn't know how to answer it.
Right. He's like, uh-oh.
He's like, oh.
I know the speech. I don't know the question, the answers.
No critical thinking, right? No, maybe critical, just not the deep knowledge. So he says, oh my gosh, I'm surprised that people in this esteemed city of Berlin asks such simple, basic questions that even my chauffeur could answer. Chauffeur, please stand and answer this question, right? So it's a great story, but Charlie Munger, who was Warren Buffett's business partner, went on to make the distinction between chauffeur knowledge and deep knowledge.
Right.
And I think what you're talking about is true. When you niche down, you allow yourself to have deep knowledge. And so in the story that you just shared, it's like deep knowledge of the platforms and deep knowledge of the client base. And it doesn't mean that you can't over time also have deep knowledge in these other platforms, but you can tell the difference between a deep knowledge person and a chauffeur knowledge person, and that a deep knowledge person is generally going to stay in their area of competence. They know what they know. They respect the acquisition of knowledge and expertise enough that they're like, no, like there's nuances. There's no blanket rules. There's nuances. So I'm going to stay in this area and own this. And if it's not my area, I'm going to refer you to somebody who is an expert in this space. And that's really powerful. It's like, it's the ability to do that, to stand in your power, to be a deep knowledge practitioner. First of all, it's more fun. Like I would love to sit down with you and talk all about like Facebook and, like Twitter, right? It's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, right?
No, LinkedIn, no egg.
Facebook and LinkedIn, right? Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, right? And it's enough. It requires deep knowledge because they change. They're changing
I know.
constantly.
Oh my gosh.
Right. And so, yeah, I think there is a humility that is required to be the best in your field. That's what people don't think about. There's a true humility. And so chauffeur knowledge, you can tell there's just a lack of humility. Deep knowledge, there's always humility. No, I totally know my stuff here, but over here, I don't. Yeah.
Right.
Powerful.
I don't know why this popped into my head. I was thinking about and you're way too young to know any of this, the Hoover vacuum cleaner salespeople.
Yes.
They would go to your door and they would sell you the Hoover vacuum cleaner. If you asked them about anything besides a Hoover vacuum cleaner, they could not answer those questions. But they could tell you anything and everything about that vacuum cleaner, stuff that you never even cared about, right?
Yes.
But and so that comes back to it. I mean, I think we all need to really be those specialists in order to truly be successful. And you're not leaving money on the table, folks. You might be making the table smaller, but the money's going to go higher.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've seen it time and time again. And, and then the thing is, looping back to the part of our conversation, where we were talking about Neutrogena, you start by focusing, and that's what allows you to own your space. And then in time, as you build up huge cash reserves, as you build up high-level employees, as you build up excellent processes and systems, now you have the capacity to go a little broader. And you will see that because that's the growth path for Disney. Right. Disney owned what it did. How has it grown? By buying Marvel. Right?
Which is very similar. They didn't
right.
buy Amazon.
Right? Like they start to expand it a little bit from like kids cartoons to like superhero, but it's in the same milieu, but they were well established in their niche before they ever started doing that. So this idea of acquisition, but they grow, the acquisition is all about buying other specialists. Right. So this understanding of business strategy and effective strategies to growth, it's so key for entrepreneurs. Yeah.
Right. Oh my gosh, Eleanor, we obviously have to have you on again because we just have barely
that blew by. We blew through that hour, Deb. Oh my goodness.
This is why I set the timer because, I was joking before that, lunch would come and go and we'd still be talking.
I didn't believe you. Now I get it.
I know, and so, but we need you to tell us what services do you provide and how do people reach out to you?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. So my focus at SafiMedia is really helping women entrepreneurs who run service-based businesses or knowledge-based businesses, coaches, consultants, service providers, architects, chiropractors, that kind of thing. We work with women like that to help them sustainably scale past $1 million in revenue. And we do it in two ways. Number one, we help you uncover a strong, lucrative niche, build a scalable offer, and ensure that offer is effectively positioned and messaged. And I do that in the Power Presence Position Business Accelerator. That's where I encourage everybody to start. And some people, like, you need to understand this is for companies. We have companies coming into that who are already doing multiple six figures, sometimes even seven, but their growth is completely unsustainable. So we help them really declutter and focus that business so it becomes a cash producing machine. And then from there, we help them scale it in a program called the Incubator. We have been recognized globally. We've won a number of awards for the work that we do with founders. We're the real deal. And so if what you've heard here speaks to you, I encourage you to go to powerpresenceposition.com or coachwitheleanor.com. You go to those two places, you can read about how we work with people and apply. And that's really kind of that's the core of what we do.
And obviously you're very big on LinkedIn, so people can find you there.
They can totally find me. Thank you. Yes. So
I read your website. I saw that.
LinkedIn is my favorite. It's a fantastic. So I'm on LinkedIn at Eleanor Beaton, on Instagram at Eleanor Beaton, and the podcast is Power Presence Position. If you're a podcast listener, you may like to check that out as well.
Perfect. I love it. I love it. Well, this has been so much fun. And as I said, we will have you on again because we didn't even get through half of the list of things that you wanted to cover.
I know.
So we will definitely do this again. But until then, do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
Yeah. So number one, if you are not niche down, you're leaving money on the table. Number two, people think that scaling your company is about addition. It's not. Scaling is about subtraction, then multiplication, in that order. That's the second thing that I would really add.
I love it. I love it. Well, I have been having just so much fun talking with Eleanor Beaton. Can't wait to do it again. Until then, I'm Deb Creer, and everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.